Hear her slow, sweet eyes, fear tremulous, but humbly hopeful, rose, fixed on her hearers, while the queen, who stood, all glittering like May sunshine on May leaves, in green and gold, and plumed with green, replied, "Peace, child. Of overpraise and overblame, we choose the last. Our noble Arthur hymn, ye scarce can overpraise, will hear and know. Nay, we believe all evil of thy mark. Well, we shall test thee farther, but this hour we ride a-hawking with Sir Lancelot. He hath given us a fair falcon, which he trained. We go to prove it. Bid ye hear the while. Bide ye here the while." She passed, and Vivien murmured after, "Go, I bide the while." Then, through the portal arch, peering askance and muttering broken wise, as one that labors with an evil dream, beheld the queen and Lancelot get to horse. Is that Lancelot? Goodly but gaunt. Courteous amends, forgottenness takes her hand. That glance of theirs, but for the street had been a clinging kiss, how hand lingers in hand. Let go at last, they ride away to hawk for waterfowl. Royaller game is mine, for such a supersensual, sensual bond, as that grey cricket chirp of at our hearth. Touch flask with flame, a glance will serve the liars. Ah, little rat that borest in the dike, thy hole by night, to let the boundless deep down upon far-off cities, while they dance. Our dream of thee they dreamed not, nor of me. These but each of either ride and dream, the mortal dream that never yet was mine. Ride, ride, and dream until ye wake to me. Then narrow court and lubber king, farewell. For Lancelot will be gracious to the rat, and our wise queen, if knowing that I know, will hate, loathe, fear, but honor me the more. Yet, while they rode together down the plain, their talk was all of training, terms of art, diet and sealing, jesses, leech, and lure. She is too noble, he said, to check at pies, nor will she rake, there's no baseness in her. Here, when the queen demanded as by chance, "Know ye the stranger woman?" "Let her be," said Lancelot, and unhooded casting off the goodly falcon free. She towered her bells, tone under tone, shrilled, and they lifted up, their eager faces wondering at the strength, boldness, and royal knighthood of the bird, who pounced her quarry and slew it. Many a time, as once of old among the flowers, they rode, but Vivien, half forgotten of the queen, among her damsels, broidering sat, heard, watched, and whispered. Through the peaceful court she crept, and whispered. Then, as Arthur in the highest leavened the world, so Vivien in the lowest, arriving at a time of golden rest, and sowing one ill hint from ear to ear, while all the heathen lay at Arthur's feet, and no quest came, but all was joust and play. Leavened his hall, they heard and let her be. Well, the heathen are poorer than those people with the with the castles and the fine masonry, now aren't they? Well, not, okay. Yes, fine masonry, but fine carpentry, that was the word I was thinking. Thereafter, as an enemy that is left, death in the living waters and withdrawn, the wily Vivien stole from Arthur's court. She hated all the knights and heard in thought their lavish comment when her name was named. For once, when Arthur, walking all alone, vexed at a rumor issued from herself of some corruption crept among his knights, had met her, Vivien, being greeted fair, would fain have wrought upon his cloudy mood, with reverent eyes, mock loyal, shaken voice, and fluttered adoration, and at last, with dark sweet hints of some who prized him more than who should prize him most, at which the king had gazed upon her blankly and gone by. But one who had watched and had not held his peace, it made the laughter of an afternoon, that Vivien should attempt the blameless king, and after that she set herself to gain him, the most famous man of all those times, Merlin, who knew the range of all their arts, had built the king his havens, ships, and halls, was also bard and knew the starry heavens. The people called him wizard, whom at first she played about with slight and sprightly talk, and vivid smiles and faintly venomed points of slander, glancing here and grazing there, and yielding to his kindlier moods. The seer would watch her at her petulance and play, even when they seemed unlovable, and laugh, as those that watch a kitten. Thus he grew tolerant of what he half disdained, and she, perceiving that she was but half disdained, began to break her sports with graver fits, turn red or pale, would often, when they met, sigh fully, or all silent gaze upon him, with such a fixed devotion that the old man, though doubtful, felt the flattery, and at times would flatter his own wish in age for love, and half believe her true. For thus at times he wavered, but that other clung to him, fixed in her will, and so the seasons went. Then fell on Merlin a great melancholy. He walked with dreams and darkness, and he found a doom that ever poised itself to fall, an ever-moaning battle in the mist, world war of dying flesh against the life, death in all life and lying in all love, the meanest having power upon the highest, and the highest purpose broken by the worm. So leaving Arthur's court he ganged the beach, there found a little boat, and stepped into it, and Vivien followed, but he marked her not. She took the helm, and he the sail. The boat drave with a sudden wind across the deeps, and touching Breton sands they disembarked. And then she followed Merlin all the way, even to the wild woods of Broceliande, where Merlin once had told her of a charm, the which, if any, wrought on any one with woven paces and with waving arms, the man so wrought on ever seemed to lie, closed in the four walls of a hollow tower, from which was no escape for evermore, and none could find that man for evermore, nor could he see but him who wrought the charm, coming and going, and he lay as dead, and lost to life and use and name and fame, and Vivien ever sought to work the charm upon the great enchanter of the time, as fancying that her glory would be great, according to his greatness, whom she quenched. There lay she all her length, and kissed his feet, as if in deep reverence and in love. A twist of gold was around her hair, a robe, a samite without price that more expressed than hid her, clung about her lissom limbs, in color like the satin shining palm, on sallows in the windy gleams of March. And while she kissed them, crying, "Trample me, dear feet, that I have followed through the world, and I will pay you worship, tread me down, and I will kiss you for it," he was mute. So dark a forethought rolled about his brain, as on a dull day in an ocean cave, the blind wave feeling round his long sea hall in silence. Wherefore she lifted up a face of sad appeal, and spake and said, "O Merlin, do you love me?" And again, "O Merlin, do you love me?" And once more, "Great master, do you love me?" He was mute. And lissom Vivien, holding by his heel, writhed toward him, slided up his knee, and sat. Behind his ankle twined her hollow feet. Together curved an arm about his neck, clung like a snake, and letting her left hand droop from his mighty shoulder as a leaf, made with her right a comb of pearl to part the lists of such a board as youth, gone out, had left in ashes. Then he spoke and said, not looking at her, who are wise in love, love most, say least. And Vivien answered quick, "I saw the little elf entity eyeless once, in Arthur's arras hall at Camelot, but neither eyes nor tongue, O stupid child. Yet you are wise who say it. Let me think. Silence is wisdom. I am silent then, and ask no kiss." Then adding all at once, and lo, I clothed myself with wisdom, drew the vast and shaggy mantle of his beard across her neck and bosom to her knee, and called herself a gilded summer fly, caught in a gray old tyrant spider's web, who meant to eat her up in that wild wood without one word. So Vivien called herself, but rather seemed a lovely baleful star, veiled in gray vapor, till he sadly smiled. "To what request? For what strange boon?" he said. "Are these your pretty tricks and fooleries, O Vivien?" The preamble. "Yet my thanks, for these have broken up my melancholy." And Vivien answered, smiling saucily, "What, O my master, have ye found your voice? I bid the stranger welcome, thanks at last. But yesterday you never opened lip, except indeed to drink. No cup had we. In mine own lady palms I culled the spring that gathered, trickling dropwise from the cleft, and made a pretty cup of both my hands, and offered you at kneeling. Then you drank, and I knew no more, nor gave me one poor word. Oh, no more thanks than might a goat have given, with no more sign of reverence than a beard. And when we halted at that other well, and I was faint to swooning, and you lay foot gilt with all the blossom dust of those deep meadows we had traversed, did you know that Vivien bathed your feet before her own, and yet no thanks? And all through this wild wood, and all this morning when boon there was a boon, not one so strange. How had I wronged you? Surely ye are wise, but Such a silence is more wise than a kind. And Merlin locked his hand in hers and said, "Oh, did ye never lie upon the shore, and watch the curled white of the coming wave, glassed in the slippery sand before it breaks? Even such a wave, but not so pleasurable, dark in the glass of some presageful mood, had I for 3 days seen, ready to fall, and then I rose and fled from Arthur's court to break the mood. You followed me and unasked, and when I looked and saw you following me still, my mind involved yourself the nearest thing. In that mind mist, for shall I tell you the truth? You seemed that wave about to break upon me, and sweep me for my hold upon the world. My use and name and fame, your pardon, child. Your pretty sports have brightened all again, and ask your boon, for boon I owe you thrice. Once, for wrong done you by confusion, next for thanks it seems, till now neglected. Last, for these your dainty gambols, wherefore ask, and take this boon so strange, and not so strange." And Vivien answered, smiling mournfully, "Oh, not so strange as my long asking it, not yet so strange as you yourself are strange, nor yet so strange as that dark mood of yours. I ever feared ye were not wholly mine, and see yourself have owned ye did me wrong. The people call you prophet, let it be, but not of those that can expound themselves. Take Vivien for expounder she will call, that 3 days long presageful gloom of yours, no presage, but the same mistrustful mood that makes you seem less noble than yourself. Whenever I have asked this very boon, now ask again, for see you not, dear love, that such a mood as that, which lately gloomed your fancy when you saw me following you, must make me fear still more you are not mine, must make me yearn still more to prove you mine, and make me wish still more to learn this charm of woven paces, and of waving hands. As a proof of trust, O Merlin, teach it me. The charm so taught will charm us both to rest. For grant me some slight power upon your fate, I, feeling that you felt me worthy trust, should rest and let you rest, knowing you mine, and therefore be as great as ye are named, not muffled round with selfish reticence. How hard you look, and how denyingly. Oh, if you think this wickedness in me, that I should prove it on you unawares, that makes me passing wrathful, then our bond had best be loosed forever. But think or not, by heaven that hears, I tell you the clean truth, as clean as blood of babes, as white as milk. O Merlin, may this earth, if these unwitty wanderings, if these unwitty wandering wits of mine, even in the jumbled rubbish of a dream, have tripped on such conjectural treachery, may this hard earth cleave to the natter hell, down, down, close again, and knit me flat, if I be such a traitress, yield my boon, till which I scarce can yield you all I am, and grant my reiterated wish, the great reproof of your love, because I think, however wise, ye hardly know me yet. Now one should avoid. Now you can swear to things, but may I to go to hell and be taken to a lower level and that sort of thing. No. Don't swear in ways that if it wasn't true that you're cursing yourself, unless, you know, well, I mean, I don't volunteer such swearing, that is. If it's absolutely necessary, that may be like if you're testifying in court and, you know. And Merlin loosed his hand from hers and said, I never was less wise, however wise, to courteous Vivien, though you talk of trust, than when I told you first of such a charm. Yea, if you talk of trust, I tell you this, so much I trusted when I told you that, and stirred this vice in you which ruined man. Through woman the first hour, for howsoever in children a great curiousness be well, who have to learn themselves and all the world in you, that are no child, for still I find your face is practice when I spell the lines. I call it well, I will not call it vice. But since you name yourself the summer fly, I well could wish a cobweb for the gnat that settles beaten back and beaten back, settles till one could yield for weariness. But since I will not yield to give you power upon my life and use and name and fame, upon my life and use and name and fame, why will ye never ask some other boon? Yea, by God's rood, I trusted you too much, and Vivien, like the tenderest hearted maid that ever bidded tryst at village stile, made answer, either eyelid wet with tears, Nay, master, be not wrathful with your maid. Caress her, and let her feel herself forgiven, who feels no heart to ask another boon. I think ye hardly know the tender rhyme of trust me not at all, are all in all. I heard the great Sir Lancelot sing it once, and it shall answer for me. Listen to it. In love, if love be love, if love be ours, faith and unfaith can ne'er be equal powers. Unfaith in aught is want of faith in all. It is the little rift within the lute and that by and by will make the music mute, and ever widening slowly silence all. The little rift within the lover's lute are little pitted speck in garnered fruit, that rotting inward slowly moulders all. It is not worth the keeping, let it go, but shall it answer, darling, answer no, and trust me not at all or all in all. O master, do ye love my tender rhyme? And Merlin looked and half believed her true. So tender was her voice, so fair her face, so sweetly gleamed her eyes behind her tears, like sunlight on the plain behind a shower. And yet he answered half indignantly, far other was the song that once I heard by this huge oak, sung nearly where we sit. For here we met, some 10 or 12 of us, to chase a creature that was current then. In these wild woods, the hart with golden horns, it was the time when first the question rose about the founding of a table round, that was to be for love of God and men, and noble deeds, the flower of all the world, and each incited each to noble deeds. And while we waited one, the youngest of us, we could not keep him silent. Out he flashed, and into such a song, such fire for fame, such trumpet glowings in it, coming down to such a stirred and iron-clashing close, that when he stopped, we longed to hurl together, and should have done it. But the beauteous beast, scared by the noise, upstarted at our feet, and like a silver shadow slipped away through the dim land, and all day long we rode through the dim land against a rushing wind, that glorious roundel echoing in our ears, and chased the flashes of his golden horns, till they vanished by the fairy well, that laughs at iron as our warriors did, where the children cast their pins and nails and cry, laugh, little well, but touch it with a sword. It buzzes fiercely round the point, and there we lost him. Such a noble song was that. But Vivien, when you sang me that sweet rhyme, I felt as though you knew this cursed charm, were proving it on me, and that I lay and felt them slowly ebbing, name and fame. And it's important. So the first thing we come across here is the whole bit about, be careful about your oaths. Second thing that I'm think to draw attention here is that fame and some stuff like that is secondary to whatever you're doing. If you're doing a good deed, let it be because it's a good deed. Because wanting to be known, doing it for fame, for being good is and brave and all that is can spoil the deed spiritually. And Vivien answered, smiling mournfully, "O mine have ebbed away for evermore, and all through following you to this wild wood, because I saw you sad to comfort you. Lo now, what hearts have men? They never mount as high as woman in her selfless mood. And touching fame, howe'er ye scorn my song, take one verse more. The lady speaks it this, my name once mine, now thine, is closelier mine. For fame, could fame be mine, that fame were thine, and shame, could shame be thine, that shame were mine. So trust me not at all, or all in all." Says she, "Not well, and there is more. This rhyme is like the fair pearl necklace of the queen, that burst in dancing, and the pearls were spilt, some lost, some stolen, some as relics kept. But nevermore the same two sister pearls ran down the silken thread to kiss each other on her white neck. So is it with this rhyme. It lives dispersedly in many hands, and every minstrel sings it differently. Yet is there one true line, the pearl of pearls. Man dreams of fame, while woman wakes to love. Yea, love through love were of the grossest carves a portion from the solid present eats, and uses, careless of the rest. But fame, the fame that follows death, is nothing to us. And what is fame in life but half disfame, and counterchanged with darkness? Ye yourself know well that envy calls you devil's son, and since ye seem the master of all art, they fain would make you master of all vice." And Merlin locked his hand in hers and said, "I once was looking for a magic weed, and found a fair young squire who sat alone, had carved himself a knightly shield of wood, and then was painting on it fancied arms. Azure, an eagle rising, are the sun, and Dexter chief the scroll I follow fame. And speaking not, but leaning over him, I took his brush and blotted out the bird, and made a gardener putting in a graph, with this for motto, rather use than fame. You should have seen him blush, but afterwards he made a stalwart knight, O Vivien. For you, methinks, that you love me well. For me, I love you somewhat. Rest and love should have some rest and pleasure in himself, not ever be too curious for a boon, too prurient for a proof against the grain. Of him ye say ye love, but fame with men, being but ampler means to serve mankind, should have some small rest, or pleasure in herself, but work as a vassal to the larger love, that dwarfs the petty love of one to one. Use gave me fame at first, and fame again, increasing gave me use. Lo, there is my boon. What other for men sought to prove me vile, because I fain had given them greater wits, and then did envy call me devil's son, the sick weak beast seeking to help herself by striking at her better mist, and brought her own claw back, and wounded her own heart. Sweet were the days when I was all unknown, but when my name was lifted up, the storm brake on the mountain, and I cared not for it. Right well know I that fame is half this fame, yet needs must work my work. That other fame to one at least, who hath not children vague, the cackle of the unborn about the grave. I cared not for it a single misty star, which is the second in a line of stars, that seems a sword beneath a belt of three. I never gazed upon it, but I dreamt of some vast charm concluded in that star, to make fame nothing. Wherefore, if I fear giving you power upon me through this charm, that you may play me falsely, having power, however well think ye love me now, as sons of kings, loving and pupilage, have turned to tyrants when they came to power. I rather dread the loss of use than fame, if you, and not so much from wickedness, as some wild turn of anger or a mood of overstrained affection it may be, to keep me all to yourself, or else a sudden spurt of women's jealousy should try this charm on whom ye say ye love.